Okay, so I finished cutting this thread and it's come up really well. We do have an issue. I want this to go all the way on, but it's jamming up there and it's got maybe another 2mm to go. And I've had a good look at it and I'll show you what's going on, what's stopping it. Have a look here. Someone's had a crack at this, possibly trying to punch it out, and when they've done that, they've upset the thread quite severely too. So I need to clean that out so that we can get a full thread engagement and get this running all the way on. So I'm going to try something. I don't know if it's going to work. Being in brass, it might, but I'm going to go and set this up on the other lathe. I'm just going to try something. Alright, so here's the nut. It isn't brass, it is steel. I thought it was brass for some reason. What I've done first of all, I've filed off the high spot. It had raised up quite a bit, so I've filed off the high spots. And now we're going to try and clean the thread out. Now it's a 16 TPI, which is a 3/8 UNC, so we're going to try and use this as a die chaser to try and clean that thread out. So let's just see how we go, eh? I'm not going to hold my breath that it's going to work, but so engage it in first and then engage into the back where it's a little bit more, I think. You'll notice too that I've got this in a holder. Make it a little bit better. So we engage it and then drop it. Just get a bit more speed on it. Alright, let's see how that goes. I'll give that a clean out and we'll see what happens. Alright, just going to pop a chamfer on this end. And it did work. I was able to clean that thread out. I had to do a little bit of it by hand outside the chuck, just in the local area where it had peened over, and yeah, it did clean it out quite nicely. So there you go, using a tap as a thread chaser. Alright, let's put a little bit of a chamfer on this and we'll show you how things came up. Alright, that's come up flush at the bottom there, so I'm pretty happy with that. And that's bottomed out on the thread. So yeah, we've got that nailed. Well, what I might just quickly do, I'll clean the thread up a bit more. I'm going to pop the hub on, we'll put the locking nut on, and we'll see how everything fits up, eh? It's gotten quite tight there. I don't want to force it. I might be binding up somewhere here. I'm just going to go and fix it up and we'll come back on camera and we'll see what's going on. Oh, we just had a little bit of a raised burr on it. As you can see, it fits up quite nicely. Yeah, I should be working with my head where the camera is, but I get a bit blind here. Yeah, I can't say that. I'll bring you guys back a bit further. There we go. Right. So we've got a little bit of float in there, which I'm not happy about. I don't think that's going to go up any further. So I'm going to have to take some material off of here. I don't think we can have it like that. I'm going to put the other one back into this and just see what it was like and see if they had the same sort of float, because I took the measurements exactly as per the original. So it certainly does have end float in it. Oops. But yes, it does have end float in it. It's got a little bit in it too. I'm going to play around with that, and I think I might see if I can reduce it. So I might have to bring this shoulder back a little bit further, just to try and get it back to what the infloat is on here. But no, there's certainly infloat in that one. Alright, back on. Now I reckon there is the same amount of backlash in this one. So yeah, I think that'll do us. Alright, we'll turn the hub around. We'll set it up in the small lathe with the forge jaw, and we'll get this last feature cut into it. Yeah, that's good. I reckon the same amount of backlash, so yep, we'll leave them at that. Alright, so what I've found is the play is actually in the bearing. So if I was to push the inner race in nice and hard, and then there it goes there. So that's the backlash I've got. As I said, that's just in the bearing set, so not going to worry about that too much. Looks like the bearings may have spun in the housing a little bit over time and worn out one of the faces. That's where we're getting that bit of slop. So, alright, so we've got this end here to do now. So I've faced it off to length, got the camera on, I've faced it off to length, which is 93.5. I'm going to come back to the length, back to this face here. Then we've got to do a small undercut. I think this is going to be an oil well to be able to feed this oil point for these two bushes inside. So we'll carry on with that. Now I may run out of batteries. It looks like it's getting fairly low at the moment, but we'll see how we go. Once we've done all the turning, we'll then set up and do these countersunk holes on the PCD, and then we've got to set up and do the oil hole through, but I'll have the bushes pushed in at that stage for that. Alright, let's get into it. And one thing you might notice, we're on a little lathe at the moment, or the smaller lathe, the high power lathe, doing these faces. Alright, I'll get this machine back to size, and then we'll come back and we start cutting the diameters, and that's well. Right, I just want to quickly point something out here. If you have a look, it's just touching here on the diameter, not touching here. When I finished machining this in the Victor lathe, the bigger lathe, I made sure that I did turn that diameter as a reference to clock up to. So you can see there's a few thou difference in the concentricity of this, so it's important if you want to have concentricity all the way through. Make sure you put it in a forge jaw and then clock it up independently. Well, I'll measure that diameter and I'll give us a set point, and we'll come back for our finishing pass. So I'll do that off camera. I'll set up for the taper to create that oil well. All right, yes, the battery died. I did have to finish the turning off on this side. We'll have a look at that once we've got it out of the chuck. What we need to do now is we've got these 3 holes that we need to drill and then countersink. We also have an oil gallery that we need to put in as well. And when you're doing this sort of thing, you don't know how these things are orientated or what needs to be referenced off what. And the way I've put this together, it looks like the oil gallery is in line with at least one of the holes. So part of my setup is to allow me to drill through the 3 holes, and I can countersink. I've got it set up on my angle plate. So what I can then do is the hole that I've just drilled here, I'll put a bit of drill rod into the collet and then line up the hole here. Then I'll angulate my table, and it's 25 degrees, and I'll do my reference touch-offs and then drill through. That way it's going to be in line with at least one of the holes. So at the moment I've clocked this up and got it 0, 0. We'll use the digi readout with the PCD function on it to get these holes and these countersinks put through. So that's the thinking behind it, and that's the way I've got it set up on the tilt table here to be able to do that oil gallery. All right, we'll get set up. We are set up now to do the PCD drill through. It's a diameter 9 drill that I'm using here. Oh, sorry, it's 11/32 actually, which is a nice sliding fit in the existing holes. I'm not going to center drill these. I've split point these, so they should center up pretty well. Well, I'll get that last one. You can't see that one, but I'll get that last one done and we'll get set up for the countersinking. Alright, I can't take a trick here. So my plan was to use one of these countersinkers. These give a beautiful finish, no chatter, but the body of it falls about half a mil shy of being able to get into the hole. So I've gone for one of the traditional ones, and now my collet is just touching the threads. So what I'm going to have to do is make up an extension for this bloke so I can get it into this collet. The collet will be sitting up here and clearing. I can't get any more out. I'm sort of only in by about 6 mil now. I don't want to risk any further out. So I've got to go and make up the jig or the extending bar to get that to fit. All right, well, I'll go and do that now. It's going to be something fairly simple, but we'll get that sorted out now. All right, so that's our shaft extension. And I've drilled down around that, and it's an airlock fit in there. So I'm going to drill some grub screws. I don't want to have to put a flat on this. I'm hoping the grub screws will hold it on their own. We'll just take it easy and we'll see how we go. Right, we've got our jig made up. Works quite well. I've already done one hole. I'm just going to show you this second hole. I'm just taking it very, very easy. There we go. I'm just using the digi readout on the quill to do my depth, so they're all exactly the same. So that's working out very well. Alright, we'll get this last hole done and then we'll look at doing the oil gallery into the bush. Right, I'll get this out of the 3-jaw now. I'll get the bush pressed into the other side. Let's flip it over, realign it to the hole, angulate the plate, and we'll get set up for doing that oil gallery. Alright, let's get it out. Alright guys, I've pressed that bush back in, and that was a very, very nice fit in there. Just a little bit of force with the arbor press. It's just below flush, which is what the other one was. I've got the drill, which was an 11/32 drill that we used to drill these holes out, set up so that I can rotate the part around and then align the drill into the part. Once we're aligned, I can then lock that up. So the hole that we're going to drill in through here for the oil way is directly now in line with the hole that we drilled when we were the other way up. So just an easy way of alignment. The next thing I need to do now is just angulate my angle plate. I think it's 25 degrees, so that we can get some touch-off points to start doing the hole. Alright, we'll get set up for that operation now. Alright, let's see how we go with a close-up. So I've got a diameter 4mm end mill in the collet. And what I've done is I've just touched off on that surface at the same time I've touched off on that surface. So I can bring my end mill up, and then I need to traverse it in, or index it in, 5.76, and that gets me on the center line for my oil hole. Alright guys, we've got our table set up. I've angulated that at 25 degrees. We've got our 4mm end mill in here, ready to do a spot face so that we can drill through diameter 4 for that oil gallery. And I'll bring you in a bit closer and we'll go through the touch-off points and the geometry to get that position on center for that hole. Righto, let's make a start and see how we go. Alright, so we've got that hole in there. Hopefully you can see that and see the sister hole just beside it, and you'll see that they are absolutely identical, the way that has come through. I'll put a light down inside there. I don't know how that's going to go with all the shadowing, but you can see the two holes there. So one was the one on the right, or the one on the left hand side was the original one that we've just offset slightly, and the new one's the one on the right hand side there. So I don't think I could have got them any better. Alright, I'll get the bearing to this end and we'll get the seal pressed home, and that's this job finished. And we can move on to what the original problem was with those dogs on that dog clutch.